Why Apple shouldn't be forced to assist the government's efforts to crack cell phones needed for criminal investigations. Presented by Luke, Jessica, Logan, and Caleb. The history of government surveillance. Many people feel that if you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear. The same tools that can protect citizens are the same tools that can be turned around to hurt its citizens. Back in 1908, the Bureau of Investigation was created, with the purpose that the federal government must intervene to foster justice in an industrial society. Though the purpose and creation of government surveillance was intended to protect its citizens, history would say otherwise. Shortly after 1908, the Bureau of Investigation began targeting peaceful groups, such as African activists, and began deporting citizens based on false accusations from government surveillance. The Fourth Amendment states that the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue, but upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. The Constitution is the supreme law in the United States of America. In court cases, it is the job of the courts to determine the constitutionality of the laws. The Fourth Amendment clearly states that searches and seizures will not happen without probable cause. Apple should not be forced to assist in government's effort to crack cell phones. If it complies for larger cases, it would open the door for it to become more commonplace for even suspected crime, or for smaller crime to need a phone hacked. Even creating this once provides an entryway for all criminals. Back in 1770, British soldiers massacred colonists due to an escalated argument between one colonist and one British soldier. That ended up rallying 300 to the fight. This brought outrage to the people, and they wanted to take the soldiers to trial for war crimes. John Adams oversaw that trial and stated that the law was clear that the soldiers had the right to self-defense. This was a very controversial case that illustrates the importance of civility and law over passions and feelings. The law and all its vicissitudes of government, fluctuations of the passions, or flights of enthusiasm will preserve steady, undeviated course. It will not bend to the uncertain wishes, imaginations, and wanted tempers of men. End quote, John Adams. Though some of us may feel that corporations such as Apple should be forced to assist the government, the law, specifically the Fourth Amendment, is clear and overrules passions and feelings. And this is exactly why Apple refused to assist the government's request to unlock the Pensacola shooting suspect's iPhone, because there's an understanding that the Constitution, regardless of our personal opinions and biases, is inalienable. Apple has released a customer letter that clearly states where they stand on this. And in this letter, they point out that there's two important and dangerous implications as to why they refuse to crack phones. One, people's privacy and safety at risk. And second, it sets a legal precedent. Apple in their letter states, the government asked a court to order Apple to create a unique version of iOS that would bypass security protections on the iPhone lock screen. It would also add a completely new capability so that passcode tries could be entered electronically. This has two important dangerous implications. As stated, first, the government would have us write an entirely new operating system for their use. They are asking Apple to remove security features and add a new ability to the operating system to attack iPhone encryption, allowing a passcode to be input electronically. This would make it easier to unlock an iPhone by brute force, trying thousands or millions of combinations with the speed of a modern computer. We built strong security into the iPhone because people carry so much personal information on our phones today, and there are new data breaches every week affecting individuals, companies, and governments. The passcode lock and requirement for manual entry of the passcode are at the heart of the safeguards we built into iOS. It would be wrong to intentionally weaken our products with government-ordered backdoor. If we lose control of our data, we put both our privacy and our safety at risk. Second, the order would set a legal precedent that would expand the powers of the government, and we simply don't know where that would lead us. Should the government be allowed to order us to create other capabilities for surveillance purposes, such as recording conversations or location tracking, this would set a very dangerous precedent. Apple goes on further in their letter to state that law enforcement agents around the country have already said they have hundreds of iPhones they want Apple to unlock if the FBI wins this case. In the physical world, it would be the equivalent of a master key, capable of opening hundreds of millions of locks. Of course, Apple would do our best to protect that key, but in a world where all of our data is under constant threat, it would be relentlessly attacked by hackers and cybercriminals. This is a great analogy presented by Apple. If they make the locks protecting our personal information more easily broken, it may help law enforcement, but it also leaves us exposed to criminals. It would make it a world where it is pointless to keep a passcode on our phones. Physical barriers like locks help protect our home and valuables from thieves and criminals. It is increasing that a lot of our valuables can now be digital, and without a barrier, like a locked door, those valuables become more exposed. The CSIS, also known as the Center for Strategic and International Studies, has recently released a document over 70 pages long of significant cyber attacks. These significant events to note in the US that impacts its citizens include, but are not limited to, cases such as early as in April 2022 with the US Treasury, where a group stole over 540 million and dates back all the way back into the 2000s. It would be important to note that this is without Apple and other companies lowering the strength of their security systems, as the government is now asking them to do so. There are plenty of companies that house valuable information within different Apple devices. If their security system is weakened and a master key provided to law enforcement, there is a chance it could end up in the wrong hands. Even people who are not directly involved now have a chance to have their information, bank accounts, business accounts, and even government information more easily available to those who would mistreat that information. Already, cyber attacks and espionage are costly to the US and global economy. So, we must raise the question, why would we allow ourselves to be put in a vulnerable position for additional security and personal data breaches? Apple and other companies are being asked to portray years of trust built up. Once this door opened, it cannot be closed. While it would be easier for law enforcement to hack into few select devices, it opens the door for the number of security breaches reported to grow. How likely would you be to trust a company with all your personal information, credit cards, passwords, locations, etc., if that company can no longer guarantee the protection of your sensitive information? Not only would their businesses suffer, an unprecedented loss could possibly occur once consumers no longer trust their own personal security. Apple is already providing help willingly, all that is within their power and law, providing alternative methods to gather info. In the letter shared before from Apple, they have offered to help. Even though in the past they have refused to, and they will refuse to in the future, they have presented other options. What does that look like? So, they have stated, our country has always been the strongest when we come together. We feel the best way forward would be for the government to withdraw its demands under the All Writs Act and, as some in Congress have proposed, form a commission or other panel of experts on intelligence, technology, and civil liberties to discuss the implications for law enforcement, national security, privacy, and personal freedoms. Apple would gladly participate in such an effort. The quote listed is from Apple. Mainly, it goes over specific ways Apple has tried to help without compromising their entire operating system. While different companies actively want to help and have no sympathy towards criminals and terrorists, they are doing their best to help wherever possible. And this is why we do not want to force Apple to assist the government in cracking phones.